So my name is Paul Brookes-Baker. I'm now Head of Continuous Improvement at University Hospitals Leicester. So that goes back to the heady days of being a YTS lab trainee, scarily back in the early 90s. And it was at that point where I was started to be introduced to control charts, CPK, capability studies, and all that kind of stuff. I found it interesting and beneficial, and from a learning point of view, but also it kind of validated a lot of the kind of tacit knowledge and understanding of what I had, and so consequently it knitted all that together, and you could almost stand by something in saying, yes, this kind of validates the knowledge that I have and formally recognizes it. So it was really good from that point of view as well. There's lots of particular subjects within it, from a statistical element in terms of Monte Carlo and things like that, which I'd never really come across before. But I still think back and consider being able to talk with other people from completely different industries and backgrounds and insights and their own sort of learning, was probably one of the biggest takeaways, along with some of the course tutors as well, who equally have come from different backgrounds, some industrial, some in the services, and so on. So for me, that I gained a lot through that and different thinking ways. For me, in terms of leadership, there's almost two elements. So one is leadership through, I suppose, a process or a methodology and so on. So you've got your strategic development and Hoshinkanri cascade. So that's kind of one element, and very much it kind of equips you with all of that kind of thing to in order to be able to put that together and lead through that process. But I think the other thing is as well is in terms of the softer skills, the people management, it starts to introduce around neural linguistic programming. It all adds to that kind of thing as well. And I think unless you've purposely been on that kind of development, it probably might not be something that you would ordinarily come across. And so certainly for a lot of people on the course, it was something that it was completely new to them. But I think ultimately it's one of the most, if not the most important element to it, because in the end, as a leader and as a manager, you achieve through your teams, and so being able to manage and coach people within your team through stretch goals, and development and so on is really the core of a manager's role, I would say. To be honest, it's difficult to think of a better way of doing it, because an alternative could be you go away. It could be offsite, for example, or you have full blocks of days at it. It can be very difficult to try and ring fence full days away from the normal daily job, ultimately. So having it broken down into smaller bite-sized chunks, a couple hours at a time, allows you to fit your normal daily responsibilities around that. So it's much easier to kind of work around. Plus, as well, from a headspace point of view, it gives you a chance to breathe and kind of absorb a little bit more. And also from a retrospective point of view, if you ever wanted to go back and re-listen to anything, all the recordings are there, and again, they're in smaller bite-sized chunks, so it's easy to navigate your way through it and put a bit of time aside. It's almost, obviously it requires more attention than a typical podcast, for example, but it kind of gets towards that sort of bite-sized chunk. So yeah, really, really convenient. I think perhaps one of the key takeaways for me, and something that we've been doing as a consequence, is for me to get more people within the trust going through those kinds of apprenticeships, because the more people you can have that talk the same language and kind of understand what you mean when you refer to something, rather than having to explain it all, and within that process convince and get people to buy into it. You've kind of got that hard baked in already. So for me, it was quite important to get people going through that same process. Um, and I think as a consequence, that then when I kind of roll out and start getting people to use things like Minitab or certain statistical approaches and so on, they know exactly the benefits and where I'm coming from. So it helps me to get other people on board by not just solely reliance on me, but also I can put people through a process and they'll pop out the other end and say, oh yeah, I get it. I would say, to coin a phrase that's been popularized by a major global automotive manufacturer, is that there is always a better way. And you can learn and develop. I think being a leader, the most important thing is obviously your team, but within yourself, it's your mindset. And so if you have a mindset where you are always open-minded and looking to learn, then you're always going to be on the right path in terms of being a better leader. I think I have been incredibly lucky when I think about my career, for the managers and mentors that I've had along the way. Um, and I really struggle to think of really bad examples. And so that means I've been incredibly lucky in that respect, because there's people I come across who have been nowhere near as lucky as me in that respect. And I think of lots of different people along the way who've helped me massively develop, um, and supported me, um, to grow as a person as well.